I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual. 起立，面向佛堂，参加先鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位的传世一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。
This week we're going to do the Tao and Tai Chi Part 2. And this is a multi-part discussion of chapter 22 of the Dao De Jing. There we go. We can get the computer to cooperate here. I did not start out with the first two lines this time. Bend and remain whole, yield and remain straight. We went into a lot of depth about the relationship between those two lines in chapter 22 and the practice of Tai Chi Chuan and life in general last week. This week I picked this up with line 3, which starts out with, be low and become filled, be worn out and become renewed, have little and receive, have much and be confused. Therefore the sages hold to the one as an example for the world. I stopped here because this section of lines in chapter 22 is a cohesive thought, and it's an important cohesive thought. This chapter is an education in both self-defense and living, and in Tao cultivation. It's an education in developing flexibility and in understanding the importance of striving not to be rigid, inflexible, and buckling under that compelling need to be right. It's about moving away from contention and conflict and towards peaceful resolutions and not participating in things that bring about disharmony and upset positive energy. And these half dozen lines here are kind of a very condensed user's guide on how to go about doing that. That being said, it's not easy to extract that much information from this chapter. I've been practicing Tai Chi for years and years and years and years and years, and martial sciences for longer than that. And so the reason that I'm able to make this inference, whether it works for anybody but me or not, is because I've spent all of those years practicing these principles. The principles that we're referring to here are the principles of balance and equilibrium. See, the Tao of heaven exists in kind of a state of natural balance. There is a certain equity in the movement and function of the Tao. There is absolutely a balance in the way the universe moves and the way the Tao functions. There are some aspects of the Tao that are absolutely immutable. Gravity, for instance, it's not just a good idea, it's a law. You're not ever going to walk out of your house and fall up, right? We kind of count on that. Every morning, no matter where we are, we kind of count on seeing the sun in the sky during the day and the moon in the sky at night. Even in places that get multiple months of darkness and sunshine, at some point in time they count on that cyclical activity occurring. If we ever get up some morning and there isn't the sun out there in the sky, all of us are going to be universally very concerned in a real hurry. That's part of that balance. It's part of the way things work. We count on that consistency. We count on that balance. But saying that there is balance in the Tao does not imply that there is absolute symmetry in all cases in the Tao. That is, all things are not necessarily equal despite the fact that they exist in balance, and this is important. Take, for example, the processes of creation and destruction. One of my all-time favorites because it's very simple and very easy to understand. It takes, maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks or so to build a house from the ground up, but it can be burnt to the ground in a matter of minutes, right? It takes several hours to assemble an American-made car on an assembly line, but it can be destroyed in seconds by any convenient immovable object. A lifetime takes years. Ending a life takes seconds. Okay? And in all of those things, there is balance, but there is not symmetry. Although yin and yang are pictured for our aesthetic benefit as being relatively equal and circular, they are not always symmetrical. So when we consider life, and we consider balance, and we consider equilibrium and equity, it becomes simple sometimes to wonder why heaven can be so cruel, why life can occasionally be so unfortunate, why bad things happen to good people, why bad people seem to inherit good fortune, things like that. Because we expect a certain amount of karmic justice, a certain amount of universal justice, a certain amount of equity and equality in the universe. But that equity and equality doesn't necessarily always exist, not to our perceptions. In the long run, however, all of us are subject to the consequences of our own choices, and there is balance. Fortunately, we're not the ones who get to judge. I should never be in charge of the lives of millions of other people. I'm not that smart. No other person should be. But the Tao of Heaven is perfectly capable of being the judge of all of those people and of being right every time, because that justice is based on the choices of the people who make them. I don't even try to untangle the web of karma for one person, even the people closest to me, because I don't have enough information. It doesn't mean that the balance doesn't exist, okay? Consider for a few moments the behavior of water, and this is going to become important in a couple of aspects here in a second. Water always fills in the low areas as it flows, and it always seeks a natural level state as it flows. Here in Indiana, from time to time we get flash floods as a result of rain. There are lots of states here in the Midwest where that occurs. It's not entirely unusual. And so when very large amounts of water fall on the ground and the rivers and streams and lakes fill up, all of that moving water from time to time overtops the banks and starts running into places where we really wish it wouldn't. But the dynamics of the movement of that water is always consistent. It flows from a higher point to a lower point based on the action of gravity, and it fills up and embraces all that it touches. That is the nature of the movement of water. Okay? Where there's excessive water, it drains away. Where there's a low spot, it fills up. Interestingly enough, a couple of the practices of Tai Chi Chuan and life itself work exactly the very same way. When I talk to my students about practicing Qigong, energy work, I talk about gathering and concentrating the Qi, the universal energy in Qi Hai, the ocean of Qi. It's an anatomical area in the abdominal cavity. And what happens there is that the student learns to aggregate their energy in that location and radiate it throughout the body. It is an important aspect of Qigong and Tai Chi Chuan because the student has to learn how to manipulate and move and control the Qi. It's one of the 3 essential energies we work with, and it's important. Unlike external systems that rely on muscular tension and speed and strength, we rely on the Qi and some understanding and a bit of wisdom to learn how to control and use it. And there are tremendous benefits to the health and well-being of the practitioners of Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong as a result of exercising that ability to control and move the energy. People ask me from time to time why it is that I'm not dead. I've had a couple of heart attacks, 3 to be precise, and an aneurysm. I have enough stents in my heart to set off an airport metal detector. You know, I have an arrhythmia now. Yeah, a couple of cardiac problems, and yet I still have the stamina to continue to do this and to teach my Tai Chi and combat classes, and to continue to work and take care of my kids. And you know, yesterday we all drove up to Chicago so they could go see this concert, and then we drove back, got in at 4:15 this morning, and here I am once again sitting here chatting with all of you. I think perhaps the better question that people might ponder as regards my existence is, how is it that I manage to maintain the level of energy that I do despite some of the problems I've had? Well, this slide is how I manage to do that. Everybody goes through some health scares and the processes of aging, and one day the processes of dying. Those things are not unique to me or anyone else. They're going to get us all someday. And throughout the events of our lives, sooner or later, you know, we're all going to have some health challenges and what have you. And when those come along, either we're going to recover from them or we're not. Now, I will say, after my 3rd heart attack, it took me a little longer to recover than I would have liked. And because of the arrhythmia, I don't have quite the endurance or stamina I used to have. There are some things that I can't do now that I used to be able to do. But I'm not flat on my back, stuck in a wheelchair, or unable to continue to have a relatively normal life. And for that, I'm pretty doggone grateful. The reason that I'm able to continue to do the things that I do is because I practice Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong and cultivate the Tao Te Ching. It is absolutely that simple. The practice of Qigong keeps my joints and tendons and muscles and bones extended and soft and flexible, and keeps the Qi moving through my body continually. And those exercises are restorative. They're good for what ails you. They're good for the heart and the other internal organs. They're good for the muscles and bones. They're good for everything that you have. And the Qi flows just like the water. Where there's deficiency, it fills it up. Where there's excess, it drains it off. Where there's too much heat, it cools it down. Where there's too much cold, it warms it up. If it's too dry, it receives moisture. Too wet, it dries out. The movement of the energy in and of itself helps to regulate the processes of the anatomy and physiology so that it operates as best it can. That's a pretty doggone cool outcome for a set of pretty doggone simple exercises. The other aspect of the practice of Qigong and Tai Chi that I need to make you aware of is that those two practices help to guide the mind to a meditative state, which in the spiritual pursuits of Yiguandao is a huge help that will align us with the sacred space and connect us back to the Tao of Heaven and open up our hearts and minds to receive whatever illumination we can receive while we're meditating or doing the rituals or what have you. It's a big enough deal that I heartily suggest that anybody who's even remotely interested get involved with it. If there's somebody listening here who wants some help with how to do that, both Shifu Ed and I are perfectly capable and willing to assist. And Derek is no lightweight when it comes to the practice of Qigong either. He has access to some information, and I believe practices some himself that's been extremely beneficial. So it's not like there isn't help out there, and we'd all be happy to see you get started. And once again, because the Qi behaves like the water, there isn't always equality, but there is always balance. That balance contributes to a peaceful and calm and joyous life, free from emotional strife and too much stress, no matter what's going on around us. And that statement is true enough that we can say that in life, this is kind of a rule. Okay? And just like with the water and the Qi, when a life is ruled by excesses, by extremes, then confusion and chaos reign in that life. There is no peace. There is no continuity of thought. What Lao Tzu says, Mr. Bill's paraphrased edition in this case, is that all kinds of valuable goods fill up a room, but who's able to protect them? When our thinking is skewed, when our mind isn't clear, when we lack peace and equanimity, we're the person who has the room full of valuable goods and isn't able to take care of them. We can't think clearly enough even to realize that perhaps we should be taking care of them. So what's in the room full of valuable goods? Your hearts, your livers, your lungs, your brains, your muscles and bones, your back. I get reminded of that one from time to time. Most people don't think of that chapter in that context. But I do. And I do because 20 years ago I dropped an amplifier on myself and I've paid the price for it over time. Okay? There are more things of value in this life than just gold and jade. A lot more. If your health starts to fail, all the riches you possess are not worth what it takes to get your health back. If you live in pain every day, all the money in the world doesn't make that better. And so taking care of yourself far outweighs the need to chase the material or to try to achieve an artificial balance that doesn't exist, the symmetry. When a life exists in balance, in equilibrium, in alignment with the Tao, then there's peace and clarity and wisdom. I was reminded of that remarkably brilliantly yesterday when I met Nate's fiance's little goddaughter, precious 9-year-old girl, who was as precocious and honest as they come and had lots of questions about the Tao and the practices of Tai Chi and about everything else. Well, we met for the first time yesterday while I was over there visiting them, and once we got over the enormity of the old Shifu, it was an interesting conversation. And she was so bright and so smart and unbelievably honest and right that it actually was moving. She reminded me very much of my daughter Samantha. That kind of purity is tough to find. That kind of honesty is difficult to find. But in those who can maintain it, the ability to move the energies and to see things the way they truly are is astounding. That's one of the qualities that the sages developed, and one of the hardest ones to cultivate in the Tao teachings, because most people don't want to be honest with themselves. Our kids can teach us a lot. Just a little side note. So what can I leave you with today that might be actually kind of useful? Well, balance and clarity and wisdom, those things are absolutely essential in the practice of Tai Chi Chuan. They're essential in Tao cultivation. They're essential in life. You know, with the understanding of those things, then life lacks the upheaval and trauma that a lot of people live with from day to day. Without them, chaos and confusion become the natural state of being. I've been on both sides of that fence. I like this side better. I like not feeling stressed and strung out. I like being happy and at peace. And that's not to say that I don't have problems in my life and that things don't go wrong. And, you know, there aren't all kinds of situations that come up from time to time that I wished wouldn't. It just means that I don't get as overwrought by them as I used to, or as some folks do now. And that's kind of a wonderful thing. And as we develop those skills, whether it's in a martial practice or a Tao cultivation practice or just a life practice, you know, then that confusion and that upheaval and that trauma gives way to peace and to clarity and to wisdom. And those things belong in that room full of precious things, if anything does. The ability to use a discerning eye, to understand things the way they are, and to appreciate life and to be able to make sense out of information is a wonderful thing. And I'm going to tell you, since this series of discussions has a tremendous amount to do with the martial path, that we do an awful lot more living than we do fighting, or at least I certainly hope we do. And so it kind of is important to incorporate these teachings into one's life, and not just into one's martial path, if that's where you're going. You know, especially the practice of Tai Chi Chuan was never supposed to be strictly a martial practice. It was always meant to be a way to refine a person's thinking and life, so that the spiritual path could be pursued. We can train the body and discipline the mind so that the Buddha nature can emerge from us. And the more that happens, the better off we are, until perhaps one day we actually find enlightenment. Don't know if I'll make that this lifetime or not. If I don't, I'll keep trying next time. And hopefully I'll see all of you somewhere down the line in one state or another there. I truly hope something I said was useful to someone, and you all have a wonderful and great rest of your weekend.
Bill, thank you. I actually want to dive in a little bit deeper on your encounter with the little girl.
Okay.
So reason is because I heard from Yola. She had a chance to visit with you and Nate.
Yes. She's a wonderful young lady. She truly is.
Yeah, I appreciate having her energy around. So she'll be visiting, I think, in the middle of this month, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
So
She was here in Indiana yesterday.
yeah. So let me tell you what she observed. Whenever you cultivate the Tao, you begin to learn how to observe everything with detachment, with a detached state of mind. So she's practicing that, and so she tells me about that gathering for her, yourself, Nate, and a little girl by the name of Harmony.
Yes.
So it was a profound experience for Yola just to observe the impact, the process that was taking place. You shared with Harmony some tips, from a Tao perspective on how to overcome bullying.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened after that was that, long after you left, little Harmony couldn't stop talking about how cool it was, that encounter was, the entire day.
Oh.
Isn't that nice?
She was so precious. She's a wonderful kid, Derek. She really is. Very, very special.
The primary reason I want to relate that is to encourage everyone that a lot of times I say things like, you want to cultivate, to improve your life, do it for yourself because you want to go through life experiencing this great joy, expending little effort, everything is smooth and graceful. I say stuff like that. But notice that when I talk about cultivating for yourself in that sense, that's actually not as powerful as if I were to say, listen, cultivate yourself, become a better person, so you can be a better person for other people. Cultivating for others, what a concept. And that's because when you've gotten your ducks in a row, when you have your act together, when you really are on the path, people come to you naturally, they ask questions, and you have something of substance that you can offer back in return. And the impact that you will have on another life is something that you cannot even predict or imagine ahead of time. So in that way, you've cast a stone into the pond, and ripple begins to expand, and one day that life lesson will come in handy for that little girl. She'll learn from that, and she in turn will be able to use the Tao to affect other people.
I certainly hope so.
So if there is a mission for all of us, well, that's it. It's to be there for one another, to help out one another with what we know, what we have experienced, what we have observed, and to appreciate and be grateful for these opportunities to gather together like this so we can all become better human beings individually. Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架三鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架规则是一鞠躬，接班一鞠躬。Okay, everybody, we are done.